Is being successful in business down to luck? Is it a sweet science? Is it about being in the right business at the right time? Or hard work and dedication? Well, if you're like me, a business owner that's always looking at improving and learning from the best, this podcast will be sharing real stories from real business journeys. Welcome to RealTalk, your podcast dedicated to interviewing successful entrepreneurs. Alright, so welcome to RealTalk. Now this is a bit different today because normally it's one-on-one. Now I'm a little bit outnumbered. So I'm going to ask you both the same question, which is introduce yourself because I know there's a culmination of you two doing things on your own and then coming together to run a business. So I'm going to start with the shortest one and then we'll go to the taller one. So introduce yourself, who are you, what do you do?
So I am the better looking of the short guys.
We haven't got to the short guys yet. Don't ruin it.
Who are you individually?
Who are you? Who are you?
So,
what's your personality?
Do you know what? I'm probably the most positive person you could ever meet. I'm Ryan.
Ryan. Okay, so your name's Ryan and you're a positive person.
Can I just interject?
Of course,
this is him in a nutshell, which is round.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to get to the point?
Should we try again?
Yeah, go for it.
So, who are you? Where you come from? And we all know you live in Doncaster, but let's not go there today.
So I'm Ryan Willie. Create properties, yeah.
And what is it that Create Properties do?
We provide the very best homes that we actually build ourselves.
Okay.
To sell and rent.
So, construction, building, is it for yourself? Is it for contractors? How does it work?
For both. So for our own investments,
yeah.
And also we build to sell and build to rent, don't we? Yeah, we've got quite a vast variety.
Yeah.
But ultimately, yeah, we're investors by nature, and we take on work for other people at the same time, to cash flow it a little bit.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's for our own investments. Yeah.
All right, good. And the taller one of the two.
This is where I'm sure we're really different. The way I've interpreted your question, which is who are you? I would have gone, right, this is kind of where I started and this is where I am now. Whereas you've just gone straight to...
So basically what you're telling me is I ask you both a question and neither of you answer it, which is, who are you and what do you do?
I'm the southerner.
You're the southerner.
I'm the southerner. I found myself up here, unfortunately.
Fortunately, it's fortunate.
Everyone keeps telling me it's God's country, and I keep telling them it's absolutely no
chance. It is
God's
country.
You keep coming back.
I do keep coming back.
Just remember that a lot of people that are listening to this are from God's country. So,
yeah,
lots of people are. I would suggest more people are not from here.
So your name is?
I'm Hugo.
And you?
And well, I buy and flip and rent and build houses.
Oh, okay.
So you're exactly what.
So we've got two people in the property market, and together you are.
The short guys.
You said that together and everything. So you two have come together to tell me a little bit about the new business.
Yeah, so we have looked at property's huge as a topic. It's massive, and property education is something which lots of people do.
Yeah,
lots of people got their own different spins on it, and we want to put our own spin on property education. I think what we both found was that property education is often those seminars. Everyone knows about the property education world. A lot of it's a hard sell, and a lot of it is theory based. Right, you can do this, but only ever I'm going to show you the best examples of it.
Yeah. So you two started doing it, which is you've sort of done all this yourselves.
Well, I did it. You've gone more down the real.
I did the experience, and Hugo did the actual training.
I did do the training, which was really good for me. The problem with training is it's one of those where 90% of the training, I went back and did some training for the company I went through with, and 90% of the people that I stood in front of won't do anything. Yeah. They spent thousands and thousands on this course and they won't do anything. And that really bothered me. But apart from anything else, it's because when they're taught all this, it's taught the theory, but there's no plan of what you're going to do next.
You did the education.
I did the education.
Right, I'll take some action on that and I'll buy and rent. And
yeah, so that worked really well for me, whereas you're more down the experience of you're going to do this yourself and learn as you go through.
Yeah, but so we were doing it for a lot of other people whilst doing our investments in the background. So the money that we earn on doing jobs for other people, we'd use that and do it in the background. So
this education thing, tell me a little bit about what this short guys education thing is.
Well, it came off the back of the existing education out there. Is a lot of it's full of bullshit. I don't know if we're swearing, sorry.
We are definitely A-okay for swearing.
Okay, so due to the nature of bullshit that actually gets spread in the industry. There's far too many false opinions. It's just a high level sort of information provided to the people actually paying for this education. So we decided, well, why the hell is no one actually going into the nitty gritty? You know, the actual detail that gives a shit. That's the stuff that you actually need to know. So that's what we've done, and it's literally the full A to Z, the good, the badly, and the frigging ugly.
It's things like utilities. Like, it's hardly a sexy subject. The sexy subject is the no money down deal. I bought that property or I controlled that property for £1. I'll be honest, no beginner is going to do that, right? So let's start the beginning, which is, well, once you bought the house, what do you actually do with it? I remember the first time I bought a house, I didn't sort out the utilities for 6 months. I had Rotherham Council on my back going, where's our council tax? 6 months. Obviously, I managed to get out of the court here.
Like £37, was it? 6 months worth of Rotherham Council tax.
Do you know what?
That was a joke. Sorry for people there in Rotherham for listening to that joke.
I don't know how much.
I am from Rotherham, just to clarify. I wasn't born and bred in Rotherham, so.
Whereabouts?
Wickersley.
Oh,
the nice.
Oh, right, yeah.
Again, this is nothing against anybody living in Kinworth. So.
No, to answer that question straight, a lot of people get caught by the shiny penny syndrome. So when they say they want to go into property, it's because they're looking at other property landlords and they're the balls deep in money.
So we're going to talk property today. We're going to do some property talk.
Yeah, property talk.
And before we get to property talk, let's talk about journey to get you to property talk. All right. So now I'm going to do the bit that you thought was the way to answer the question. We're going to get there. Okay? It's all right. This is a timing thing. It's a good thing. It's all right. Don't worry. So Ryan, you went the experience route. So at what point in time did you know you were going to run your own business?
Well, I started. I had a job since I was 19, and when the MD at the time, said to me, "Listen, just do as you're told," it kind of stopped the thought process. When I could see logic sense of how things could be better run, and it was at that moment that I realised my future was in someone else's hands here. I thought that's got to change.
So you had like I call that an entrepreneurial seizure, where you woke up one day and went, "This person that I'm working for is an idiot," and you decided to go and work for a lunatic. Which is you.
Yourself.
You had that little seizure. Okay, so what was it about what forced you to make that decision? Because you could have easily just gone and worked for somebody else. Why set up your own thing?
My wings were clipped, and when I realised at that moment in time, I was just being used as a number. Yeah. So my experience, my efforts, everything was literally capped. And I just thought, well, why are my best efforts capped? Yeah. And it was that moment I realised, it didn't matter who I worked for, there was always be a limitation of what I was actually physically allowed to actually go and do and achieve myself, be it for someone else or whatever. So I decided, no, I'm going to do this, and then I've only got myself to blame. And
when was that? How long have you been running your own business for now?
Well, I was 19, I went self-employed, and I went to a business, so to speak, in 2010, but in 2012, that's when I turned limited.
Okay, so you've been doing this for the last 9 years. How would you sum up the last 9 years? What have been some of the peaks and some of the troughs for you?
I think in a nutshell, I had silky smooth skin when I first started, and now I feel wrinkles have started to appear.
Rhino,
I agree with that.
So I think you don't have, we go into business because you want a life, well, that's what everyone gets told. And it's 24/7. John, let me tell you this, it is not easy.
You don't switch off ever, do you?
No.
You're always sort of switched on.
No, and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
It don't bother me because I know going into business, I can hammer it, 110 mile an hour until I'm, say, 40. And once I've got my processes and systems in place, then start to take that, the plan for exit, so to speak. Yeah. But I will live a fucking amazing life from 45 onwards.
So that's your philosophy, which is you're going to go hammer and tong until you're 45, so you've got, a year left. And you're going to go hammer and tong until you're 45 to then go, right now, this is time for me.
No, I'll let you to a little secret. So I wrote a plan and said, by the time I'm 35, I've met it. Now, back then, when I wrote this, I was a bit immature. Yeah. So I said, I'll have my Ferrari. And now I know what it is all about. That's the worst decision I could have ever achieved. So what I decided was I want to be financially free and financially stable at 35.
So independent.
Completely independent. And I actually hit 35 this year, and we've had 2 years of COVID.
Yeah. And you've aged 10 years in that.
Go next, get ready. And now obviously, I've reset these plans again and go again.
Love it. And Hugo, a bit about your backstory then. So
well, I went to Sheffield University, which is why I was here in the first
in God's
place.
country.
In God's country.
God's country.
It was my backup, to be fair. Well, I'm really glad I actually went to Sheffield in the end. And I basically, second year, I figured I need to get some sort of work experience. Sent an email to my uncle asking for work experience. He's an eye surgeon by profession, and I just wanted him to give me something that I could embellish on my CV, make it look really good.
Cheat.
Yeah, basically, which is what everyone does in there.
It's the same, similar word.
We use words down south.
But he understood what he meant when he said it. It's good. We're trying to get it to our audience. So when Hugo says embellish, he means cheat. Okay, good.
Right, good, fine. Right, anyway, where was I? So, and he said, look, what's your passion? I said, no idea, just give me the work experience. And he said, come down to property investment course. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
So you were introduced to property through a family friend or a family member?
Yeah, through my uncle, yeah. I didn't realise he invested in property. But I guess our family is one of those typical families where we don't really talk about money that much. It's a dirty word. And so it's one of those where you're like, he didn't therefore want to talk about money to any of the family. So I had no idea he invested in property. It turns out he's got quite a big portfolio. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Anyway, so I was given the name and number of a guy who invests up in Sheffield. And I was 19 at the time. So I contacted this guy and said, look, can I shadow you for a bit? He said, yeah, no problem. I think he thought he was going to make some money out of me. But in fairness, he then became one of my first business partners. I then graduated in 2014. Just the year before that, I bought my first property. So I borrowed the money, bought a flip in Dinnington, of all places, in Rotherham.
Wonderful place.
Wonderful place. And that's where I learned a lot of lessons. So I bought this property at a really good price. I could have done anything. I could have rented it, I could have flipped it, I could have done work. I actually sat on it for 6 months doing nothing. Because I was at uni, I was having a good time and I just didn't really know what I was doing. Classic kind of being on a course. Yeah. But actually what I bought now
in real world.
Now I'm in the real world, yeah. So that was really interesting. And then graduated in 2014 and figured I wanted some work experience. So I moved back down to London, became an estate agent for a couple of years, got the work experience there. And that's when I just turned about 3 years in, I 2.5, 3 years in, I got to 23. I was like, I've had enough of this. I couldn't deal with somebody telling me what to do.
Was this an estate agent's business? Was
it wasn't my business. It was
because you now own an estate agency business. Is that right?
We do, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you got a property, you got a building company, you got a letting agent, you got your own property portfolios, and you're now doing an education business. Yeah. It's a good job that you don't switch off, really, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. But they all feed into each other. Okay. Which is nice.
It is, well, because obviously we've got our own individual portfolios. We've got a portfolio together, and we're also building portfolios with other JV partners as well. One thing that you don't get taught when you go into property is this is what we talk about in our education platform. But when you do go into property, you're creating a business by definition, really. So you either take control of it or you outsource it, and you either like your time or you don't. I think that's the best way to put it.
So I'd say over the last sort of 10 years or so, the idea of becoming a property investor, that could be anything from buying your second home, buying your first home, doing it up and selling it on. Yeah. I mean, I think anybody that owns their own home by definition is a property investor, isn't it? Because you're buying something with the hope of improving value and then moving up that property ladder. So for the last 10 years, that's been something of that most people that like the idea and like the sound of, right? So I think it's that first thing is, okay, well, what's the first step in property investment? So for somebody out there that maybe has a little bit of passive income, maybe has some assets that they can remortgage, they're looking at getting into the property market, what would your advice be to them?
Oh, do you want to go first on me?
You're right, I think you want to, go on.
First thing I'd say to them is, before they step into any kind of, let's do property, is understand why.
Yeah.
Because when you're in, you're in. And it's not getting in. That's the easiest part.
So let's dig into that then. So when you say know why you're doing it, just why would somebody get into property investing?
Again, going back to the show.
More like strategy. Is it like strategy that you're going to do?
It's what do you want out of life? So it's a case of, right, in 5 years' time, my life is going to look like X. Yeah. And then you have to work back from that. So in order to get, let's say they want to go on 3 holidays a year, they need, let's say, £5,000 to do that. Yeah. They need
something that's going to give them £5,000.
But then lots of people, and then your strategy derives from that, which is, right, do you want cash flow, i.e. rental properties, or do you want big chunks of money, i.e. buy, sell, flip properties or develop?
Okay, so this is a matter that's up for debate. So cash flow, which is, anybody listening to this, they run their own business, they understand what cash flow is, but it's having that constant flow of money. It might not be 20 grand every single month, but we've got it flowing in versus a nice lump sum through buying and selling.
Yeah.
When put you on it, which one's best?
It's completely up to the
Get
individual.
off the fence.
No, there is no. Right, so we've got cash
point
flow.
of view, cash flow, because you get your cash flow, and that's obviously where your business comes from. So you got
This is buy to let. Okay,
Buy to
so you're buying a property and you're doing something with it to generate cash on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Let me answer this very quickly.
Yeah.
The answer is time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't want to say the dreaded saying, so I'll not say it because that's really.
You're going to say that because everybody's going,
Yeah.
what's that
I
dreaded
don't
thing?
think
What is it?
No, they'll say it's. I'm going to refuse from saying it
Okay.
because it kind of doesn't really exist.
No, I really want to know. Financial freedom.
Oh, Jesus, just say it.
Okay. The two F's. We'll not go there.
God's sake.
FIFA.
It doesn't exist. Someone has to physically still be involved in doing it, which is what I said. It's either your business or you're outsourcing it. Either which one, you're still responsible to check your statements and whatnot.
Yeah.
But cash flow, when that allows you to get your time back eventually, if you get your numbers right, so if you've got 10 properties, let's say you get £1,000 each. If you're at HMO rather than buy to let, then you could be at 10k. Yeah, you can stop working at 10k and decide to employ an agent, and you just get your statement.
All right. So if you're saying cash flow is better than sort of lump sum over one to 3, 4, 5 times a year, whatever that might be. What opportunities and what's the best way of doing that? Is it because I look at this and go, okay, so second income, high tax. What's the best way in going about it?
That's why lots of people are in limited company. Obviously, we're not accountants, so but everyone's got to look at their own different.
By the way, this is just opinion.
I love that caveat.
I'm not an accountant.
Well, we're not FCA regulated.
I'm not FCA regulated. So this is not giving people advice from a financial perspective. It's giving your opinion. I mean, would you suggest that the route to go is to set up a limited company and do it that way?
Nowadays, definitely. Especially if you're going to try and build a portfolio. If you're going to buy one, then it may well put it in your own name potentially.
Yeah.
But you've got to bear in mind, this comes back down to strategies.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's many strategies, and every strategy will work.
Yeah.
Depending on the time. So right now it's extremely difficult to flip properties. Now where you pull your big funds out is flipping properties. It's a difficult market, and none of that every time.
Why is it difficult? What makes it difficult?
Well, the market is ridiculous right now. It's
very
very
nice. The prices up.
Coronavirus has pushed prices up, supply and demand, straightforward. Kind of, there is nothing on the market at the moment, so everything's up.
And when
It doesn't mean if you find one, by the way, cheap,
buy
off
it
the
now.
market, buy it now because you know that you'll be able to sell it quite quickly.
Yeah, and just reach out to us if you do.
I'll put your number on at the end.
But the reality is, in a correction, normally you'll see what people know as the crash. That's when people become, they'll struggle, and you can probably get their house off them quickly.
Like I said there, so not a crash, a correction.
Correction. Yeah, it is a correction. When you look at the history of the market, they go up, they go down, they go up, down, but they always predominantly go up. So really, if you want to be looking at two strategies, and we do both, so we're not hypocrites, but we focus our time on cash flow, and then every now and again we'll get a flip. So we do our flips.
And that's this whole time thing. Can we buy it at the right price? Do what we need to do with it and sell it within a period of time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Because there's so many people that buy a house and go, right, I'll do it up, and that takes 18 months.
Yeah.
And then they're not happy with it. You get emotionally attached to it, and then you keep it for 3 years. I think you being there, that you said with your one in Diddington, kept onto it far too long. So if people are looking at buy-to-let, what options have you got from a buy-to-let perspective?
Well, do you want to buy a buy-to-let and rent it to families or couples? That's what we would describe as buy-to-let. Then you've got HMO, which is where you take a house, cut it into rooms,
Put it into different compartments,
and then rent a room out, and then they
share.
And
that only works provided that you've got it in the right location. There's no point having that in Skegness, for instance, because
Skegness probably works.
All right, okay, Skegness works.
What you don't want to do, you just don't want it too far out of a town centre.
Yeah, or too far away
District.
from a university. Right, okay, Peak District wouldn't work.
Yeah, but SA would.
Yeah.
Serviced accommodation. Location
Okay,
is
so
key.
be very careful with abbreviations. People listening to this might not know. So we've got HMO, which is we buy a house, we cut it
House
up,
of multiple
we rent it to four people. You've got buy-to-let, which is I buy something, it's costing me 300 quid a month, whatever, to deal with the mortgage. I'm getting 600 quid, so therefore I've got positive cash flow. Yeah. And then the other one is serviced, did you say?
Serviced accommodation.
What did you, SA?
SA.
Serviced, which stands for serviced accommodation. Yeah. What's the difference between HMO and serviced accommodation?
Again, it's the business end. So, I mean, we've got a portfolio of HMOs, and let's say
Can I just crack in? Right. Serviced accommodation is a holiday let.
Right, okay.
Yeah, right. It's just
That's
so
the
you
bit thing,
know.
guys.
No, we
It's
can go.
holiday.
Yeah, and
So
it's
it's holiday.
Airbnb type thing.
So it's an Airbnb. So you're talking like professionals who maybe come in to work for a couple of months.
Could be that. Yeah.
Could be an
So
holiday.
you've got probably two different ways. You've got like contracts, for example.
Yeah.
For months.
Yeah.
Corporate bookings, and then you've got your John Asquith going for on
So
holiday.
theoretically, then I could be a contractor.
Could be.
You know.
I'm not sure.
I could be. I might be. So out of HMO, buy to let, and service, is there any other ways or?
Yeah, you got rent to rent. We're not going to go into all of those. There's quite.
But there are others like rent to rent,
rent
which
to
is
rent.
you renting someone and then renting it out
Yeah.
for a profit.
Yeah.
Is that legal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As
right,
long
then
as
it's-
the landlord understands it's subletting your house.
Okay, so you could let it with a sublet agreement. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's another quick way that you don't really need that much money to do that either.
No, it's a bit of a trend at the minute, and if you do
But
it
that's
right,
a
you do it
gripe.
right.
That is a gripe because a lot of courses are sold as no money down. I don't care what
And
you
that's
say.
your no money down thing.
Yeah, but it's not no money down because you've got to buy the furniture.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
got
yeah.
Because the way you do that is you buy it, you rent it as like a whole house, and then you would then subdivide it into rooms, and that's where your profit comes.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
paying-
And now the teacher is get a credit card, max it out, 10 grand, and get your furniture and whatnot, and then when you rent,
So that's
comes
where
in,
people
pay
make money from rent to rent. Then
Yeah.
it's getting agreement from the person that owns the property to say, look, I'm going to rent this out.
Yeah.
There's 4 dwellings. Do I have your permission to do that? I'll deal with it all.
back. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't want to talk about rent to rent. So let's stick with HMO, service accommodation,
Yeah.
and buy to let to a
Yeah.
family or whatever.
Yeah.
Which one would your go-to strategy be?
We are different on this.
Oh, good. I like it. So
Yeah,
let's
different.
argue it out. So which one would you choose?
So we have chosen.
Which one would you choose? Forget you two.
HMOs.
What would you choose? You choose HMO.
We've done HMO. We're on
No.
the
You're sitting on the fence again. So I'm talking to you.
No, it's a good
You've
one.
got to commit to one.
We started. You could change strategy.
He's not answering the question.
It's not
You've got to
really.
choose one.
It's very true.
Which one are you going to go for right now?
For the conversation, I'll take HMO then.
No, not for the conversation. I'm asking you.
Yeah, because you build your portfolio to get to a certain amount,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then once you've got your cash flow, then your plans can, you stick with the plan, but obviously then you'll change.
So you're
strategy.
on your trajectory. You're on
Yeah.
your plan. What are you choosing?
So ours isn't our build to rent or build to sell.
Why do you keep saying ours? So buy to rent or buy to sell.
Yeah.
That's for you, which
Yeah.
is I'll buy it, I'll do it up, I'll get the cash, and then I'll get
Or
families in. Or build something.
build.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was difficult.
Don't
Well,
buy to let.
let's see if Hugo's any easier to work.
Buy to let.
There you
all
go.
day
See,
long.
it was nice and
Because
simple, that wasn't it? It was nice
Any
and
good
simple.
portfolio will have a good base of buy to lets, then you go up. It's like a
And if you had to
pyramid.
choose one, so serviced accommodation, HMOs, buy to let family, which one would you choose and
Buy
why?
to let family
Why?
because it's the least time intensive,
Yeah.
the least.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know why you're laughing. It's all about time.
What are you laughing at? Why did I make you laugh?
Because you've got, you're asking us from what we have done or what would we recommend.
Both.
So they're different because we started purposely for the HMO route.
I'm getting back to you because he's going round. He's going round the round.
Now we change.
So you would, and why would you choose buy to let for a family, for instance?
Because it's the least time intensive.
And what do you mean by that? What does
So
that actually
you
mean?
buy the house.
Yeah.
Once you put the tenants in there, yes, you might have the odd maintenance issue, but it's
Yeah.
not. The house is
See,
generally.
what my brain's going is, I would much sooner trust Mr. and Mrs. Davidson with 2 children and a dog
Yeah.
versus 4.
You sure you want a dog?
Well, I just won the past. As I said, that was a bit weird. Versus 4 students that I know are going to absolutely trash my house.
That's the thing. But then
Debate.
the higher cash flow from the HMOs offsets that.
Yeah.
There is so much more hassle
You're not allowed to cough
with
in public,
HMOs.
Let's
No,
change
don't mind
that.
it. This is just a caveat to it. This is post-COVID lockdown. We're okay to be in people's company.
For me, it's about an accelerator. HMO gets you there quicker.
Yeah.
So once you achieve that cash flow per month, then get back to the buy to let. If you start with buy to let,
So what about, okay, so I've got some passive income. I know that it's probably not serving me sat in the bank account somewhere.
So you got a chunk of money, not.
I've got a chunk of money, well both, let's say. There's a few people out there that I know will be listening to this that'll be sat with a pension, they can draw potentially some money out, or they've got an ISA, they've got some money in,
Yeah.
and their cost of living is less than what they're earning, so they've got cash flow and potentially some deposit. What are my options? Buy to let, buy to sell, HMO. What are regulations with HMOs now? Is it a highly regulated market or not so much?
Well, this is a can of worms. So you've got.
That's not going to count. Let's go. We got about 12 minutes left.
You've got the standard kind of HMO guidelines. This is more your bag, to be fair. But you've got the standard HMO guidelines you've got to adhere to. But then each individual council will have their own take on that.
Yeah.
So what works from that council is not necessarily going to work in that council or that local authority.
So what you're telling me is with HMOs, there's lots of red tape around it.
There is.
Loads of it.
Much easier just to buy a house, stick somebody in it.
Yeah, you've still got red tape, but yes.
It's the returns that count. So for every one HMO, it's probably 3 buy-to-lets.
Right.
Probably about right.
From a South Yorkshire market, so to speak. So again, this is going back to time.
And is it different? Is it different regulations for HMO in regards to what you do and how you do it? I'm assuming with the HMO, you've got to have the right fire doors and you've got to have alarm systems, room size. And if I'm buying to let just a Mr. and Mrs. Atkinson and their 2 children and their dog, I don't necessarily have to worry about that. Or do I?
The compliance is a little less, so it's more gas safety certificate every year, and obviously the electrical. So there's a hell of a lot less. So it's much easier, like Hugo said, to do a buy-to-let than it is a HMO.
So what lessons would you say that you've had in property, and if somebody was going to get into it, what advice would you give them to sort of bypass this kind of stuff?
100%, it's the network of people that you speak to.
Yeah.
Stop listening to Joe Blogs, who's done something on Facebook, and from down the road.
So get a good group of people together that you can trust.
100%.
So been there, done it, worn the t-shirt. That are actually doing it properly.
What
now.
I would say is property, you can't just dip your toe in. So you're in it. So you better change your lifestyle that suits the property market. To simplify it, network.
What about you, Hugo?
I think it's going too big too fast, which I've spoken about before. You could go for the HMO straight away on the basis that you were fully entrenched within property and the construction game. Whereas the average person who just wants to get a bit of passive income, to go for an HMO, they're not going to know what's hit them for a little while. Yeah. Because they're like, whoa, what's going on? Whereas if they went for a buy-to-let, then they understand how property works, and then they could go, yeah, fine, I'll do an HMO. But it will be a bit of a shock to them.
Yeah.
If they went straight into HMO and they're like, wow, and not necessarily knowing what
it's a different world, isn't it?
It's a different world. A lucrative world if you get it right, but different world.
Pitfalls for getting it wrong, though.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a little saying in property, you either pay one way or another. So you either pay for education or pay for your lessons that you got wrong.
Yeah, either way you're going to learn, aren't you? Yeah, you're either going to learn doing it like you did, or you're going to learn by getting the education, which is what you did.
Yeah, 100%. I think if I was to say which one would you pick, definitely experience, but get that.
See, now that we've spoke about this, that beginning part, Hugo, when you said understand what you're doing it for, that makes so much sense now, doesn't it? So actually sitting down and asking yourself the question, I want to get a property portfolio. Why am I doing it? What's driving that? What idea do I want? Because some people will have 4, 5, 6, 7, a lot more, 100 properties on their portfolio. Other people will have 3 or 4 and be really happy with that.
Yeah.
So understanding what you're actually doing it for in long-term gain.
100%, and there's no right or wrong. So some people will not have a mortgage. Some people buy 4 properties and they won't bother leveraging them because they just want that easy kind of like no stress, no hassle, no nothing. Mm-hmm. That's fine. You're not going to hear us go, that's the wrong way of doing it. Yeah. We personally, like to try and leverage because then that allows us to buy the next one. The opportunity. But there's no right or wrong.
So your strategy then, by the sound of it, correct me if I've got this wrong, is you have some buy-to-lets which enable you to constantly increase the amount of cash flow that you've got coming in, which is probably your earnings. Yeah. And then you've got your flipping, which is we buy it, we do it up, we sell it for a profit, which then gets our next one, which then gets our next one, which then gets our next one.
Which means we've never got any money.
Yeah. But you got plenty.
Trust me, that's true. We don't have money. We have no money. It all goes back in.
But that's your strategy though, isn't it? Which is based on what you just said.
Exactly.
I want to be able to get to this age and go, right, that's it now, sell it.
Yeah, but that's the truth, what we were speaking about, knowing about the why. Before you start, you need to understand that this isn't...
Because you could potentially, you could sell your portfolio now and go and do something completely different.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. In property, you'll always win in the end.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
But yes, you could definitely do that. But
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the short guys in property then. So if I was to come to you, I'm that typical person that I spoke about. I've been running a business for a while. I've potentially got an ISA that's not serving me very well, or I've got a savings account that might be giving me 0.3% each year for the next 10 years. And I've got my income outweighs my outgoings right now. So I've got passive income, but as loads of people, when they've got passive income, they just increase their expenditure. And I want that expenditure to work better for me. What would your property course, or tell me a little bit about it? What is it? Is it a seminar hall? What is it?
So we run 3 different packages.
Yep.
We're quite big believers of. So the education that I went through was a case of, here you go, here's your seminar. Do it. We're quite big believers of the accountability side of it.
Support.
Support, accountability. So we run 3 packages. We've got group coaching, and that's probably the most popular one because people like to bounce off each other, and that's networking.
So tell me a little bit about that then. So what is this property group coaching thing? What does that entail?
We have a portal which you log into, and there's over 20 hours worth of video on that. So that's the educational side.
Okay.
Twice a month, then the group gets together and we go through what they should have done on the course. So
it's built up in like modules then. So you got
Imagine the A to Z.
Yeah.
It's from the very start. And like I said, one of the first modules is why.
Yeah.
You need to understand what it is about why. What does the end look like before you start? They go right the way through, from talking to solicitors and the whole works, the nitty gritty detail.
So when you spoke about having the right network, what you're talking about is actually creating kind of that network around you as well through putting people in groups. How big are these groups? Are you talking 5, 10 people? Are you talking 100? Okay, so quite small groups as well then.
On the same journey, ideally. That's the idea. So you'll be going through the same experiences at the same time. That's the whole point of this. So you've got
that peer-to-peer learning, which, you know, if I speak to anybody that's running their own business now, peer-to-peer learning is probably the best thing that people could get, huge. Which is people that have been through that, they're going through it all at the same time, they're sharing what's going on.
Well, you know, it's not just, if you're encountering issues, you know, it's not just you. Somebody else is encountering something. Like during COVID, we've said this a lot, which is actually it's really refreshing to go talk to a fellow business owner. And know that shit hit the fan for them as well, because otherwise you're just sitting there going, what's going wrong?
I wouldn't have wanted to be in your game at the 23rd of March last year. I wouldn't have been wanting to be there.
Anyone who's
that was nice. That was nice.
Especially in construction as well. I mean, talk about nosedive. It was unbelievable.
It was almost like the taps were turned off instantly.
Yeah.
And then if it was like maybe a month or 6 weeks later, it was like, right, taps back on now. And it's like, right, okay. People didn't really understand about infrastructure on how to stop and start things.
No, that was, I mean, we had our lessons on that as well.
Well, I mean, you had to clean your tools 3 times a day. no, I'm even joking. That was enforced on you, wasn't it, by health and safety? They came and told you.
We were forced by HSE to clean tools, I think it was at 7 times a day, and recording it as well. And that was as a HSE order.
Nice. Well, that was a COVID thing, was it?
Yeah.
Clean your hammer 7 times a day.
No sharing tools, so we had to clean it down. All touch points, what we call, so doors, handles, things.
And
like
I'm assuming on a construction site, sometimes you would be sharing tools.
Ridiculous.
So then you had to double the amount of equipment and sometimes treble the amount of equipment.
Yeah, where's that cost come from? If you're working for a client, imagine that trying to pass that cost on to a client.
Yeah.
Wow. They've already suffered through delays. They don't want to pay any more. Yeah, it can get messy, but the key to that conversation, it was communication.
All right, so if I'm interested in your property course, for anybody that, I'm going to let you do a little bit of a plug now, where would I go and what would I see?
Website, www.jointhepropertyladder.com.
Yeah.
That's our website. You can sign up there. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm interested in what you're saying.
I think he might be joining. I think he might join.
We have 3 packages. We have the kind of, you can buy the course, just the portal access. Or
Okay.
we have group coaching, or we have one-to-one. Some people, particularly those with a fair amount of money at the moment, just want to get go. They're the ones who really enjoy the one-to-one.
And for somebody that goes onto your website, they like the look of it, but they don't necessarily know which one's going to suit them. How they're best off connecting with you two.
We have a contact form down the bottom. Alternatively, Instagram.
Yeah,
we've got
so your
Facebook.
Instagram people, are your Instagram people over Facebook?
We've got LinkedIn. We've got it all.
So which one's your preference?
Probably LinkedIn. Or
okay, so
Instagram.
if somebody wants to reach out to you, that's Hugo Beardsall.
Yeah.
And find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you're Ryan Malay.
I'm Malay. Malay gets pronounced all sorts. Yeah.
Ryan Malay, that's double E, not EY, that's double E.
Yeah, M-A-L-E-E.
And how are they best off finding you? Is that LinkedIn or are you an Instagram guy? You want to share some Instagram TV stories with people?
I'm a bit of both. I do like the Insta stories.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I
So if anybody's got any questions, they can get you on LinkedIn or Instagram. They can get you on LinkedIn
Yeah,
and
and the
Instagram
website as well. There is a contact form down the website. We'll get back to you.
We're real people, get in touch, and we always love a bit of banter as well.
All right, let's finish off the interview with what we always finish off with, which is you're now talking to yourself from 9 years ago. You're now talking to yourself, you're in university. You're back in university.
Yeah.
If you could give yourself one piece of advice which would help you along the way, which might shortcut some of the journey for you, what piece of advice would you give yourself and why?
Make decisions faster.
That's a great one.
Which time do you want me to do it? I think time is probably the most expensive commodity that we all have, and you end up talking or convincing yourself out of a decision, and that actually punishes you more than actually making the decision. If you make a decision, you can live with it.
So even if you make the decision and it's wrong, you'd sooner have the time to correct that versus sitting on it, not making the decision and wishing.
Yeah, because the damage is still being done.
Yeah, I always talk to people that generally you're always going to be in pain in your life. There's two types of pain, which is that pain of self-discipline and doing it, or pain of regret, which is wishing that you'd have done something, So you having the self-discipline just to go and take that learning as and when you can would be your piece of advice.
Yeah.
Act quicker, decide sooner.
Yeah, do it.
You just do it well.
I'm fast.
JFD.
That's interesting because mine's kind of actually almost opposite that.
Oh, I love this. Love this.
North versus
We've
south.
literally got yin and yang here.
Yeah.
It's north versus south, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
There is a divide.
there is a divide.
Yeah.
It's like a different country up here.
People can't see what just happened there, but Jesus, you really meant
He went so different.
there is a divide.
We've got a thing. I don't.
Give us your
I'm not
advice.
gonna go
Give us
into
your
it,
advice.
because that's not-
What's your advice?
My advice would be actually you've got longer than you think. So I spent
Wow.
a lot of time at the beginning going, oh, I'm going to do that, rent train, oh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. Yeah. Thinking kind of the shiny penny, going for the thing, which I thought was going to get me to where I needed to get to quicker.
Yeah.
Actually, if I just sort of said, well, actually, I'm quite happy to go down that route for a couple of years, smash that. That route for a couple of years, smash that. And I wasted a lot of time because I wanted to be that quick millionaire. I wasted more time trying to be that quick millionaire than had I just gone for a strategy, stuck with it, I would have got there quicker.
Is that not planned though?
I guess plan. No, but it's also telling yourself that you've got more time than you think. Like there is that saying, isn't it? You overestimate what you can do in a year, but you underestimate what you can do in 10.
100%. Completely agree with that.
It is exactly that, which is for the first, however long, you're just like, what I'm going to do that, and actually you end up flapping and doing nothing because you're so het up about getting as far as you can, as fast as you can. And actually, if you just say, step back, this is what I'm going to do, and go with that, you're right, that's the plan. But you've also got to tell yourself you do actually have longer than you think.
Interesting. I want to go back to the.
But I am
north
younger,
and south.
so that is fine.
No comment. So for people that are watching this, because there's going to be some video of this as well, you call yourselves the short guys in property.
Yes.
Okay,
We are
so
the short guys in property.
I've got two questions for you, because you sat down right now, so you actually look a similar size to me.
His hair.
I'm 6'2". You could be 6'2". So how tall are you?
Straight under a bus. 5'6".
So you are short then. And how tall are you?
Well, if you ask me, I'm 5'8.5". If you ask the doctors, I think I'm 5'8".
So you're actually 5'8" then.
I don't know.
Is 5'8" considered
5'7".
short?
Yeah, apparently Ed found out 5'11" is the average height for a male.
Okay, so
In the UK.
you're pretty short.
I'm pretty sure, and he's miniature. Yeah.
You're really short. Aren't
Hold
you?
on a minute.
He's an implementer.
I want to. If anyone listening to this has got the stat.
I've got one question for you. Another question before you go. Last one. I promise you this is the last one. If I'm going to buy property, do I buy it in the north or the south?
North.
Oh, that is a really good question.
North.
And I am going to sit on the fence and go, it
North.
depends on your strategy. If you want cash flow, north. If you want capital appreciation, historically, being south.
And when you're talking about capital appreciation, you mean increase in value in the
Increase
property
in value,
itself.
yeah.
So if I was going to buy to let for 10 years with a view of selling it in 10 years' time, you reckon
and
south?
you weren't bothered about the cash flow particularly,
Yeah.
south. If you were interested in the cash flow, but it's changing
Doesn't property appreciate the same percentage value though, as a general rule, or not?
not across the country.
Does it not?
Not.
You could say this. It's very what you just said. Listen to what you just said. As a percentage, you could argue yes.
So if I buy a house in, let's say, Rotherham at 130 grand versus somebody in Shepherd's Bush, which is going to cost me twice as, probably three
more.
times as
Yeah.
much, will the appreciation percentage value go up at the
Yeah, they say
rate?
on average.
Obviously, I'll
let's
get
say
more
10%.
money. But
10%, but the amount of
10% over what
huge.
time?
Let's say for every 18, 20 year, But I just want to go back to what you were saying earlier. You know, apparently the capital used to be in the north. Obviously, as we know, it's in London now, and some are seeing actually that coming back up.
Yeah, if you look at Manchester, Leeds, obviously lots of money being pumped into
Cities generally you see a bigger appreciation.
But you will get your cash flow will not be as good.
So to summarise,
the yield is lower.
So north or south then?
North.
Well, I've chosen the north. I've chosen the north, so I'd also say north.
Okay, so we can agree, and on that
That's
bombshell,
unfortunately
as Jeremy Clarkson would say, north beats south.
100%.
Thank you very
It is.
much, the short guys, being on Real Talk.
Thanks for
Thank
having us.